How are you, Mike? You good?
Great. Yeah, fantastic.
Thanks for having us down here to the, was it Studio B, isn't it, Village?
Studio B at Village, yeah. Yeah.
Is this a favorite mix room?
It kind of is. I like mixing in this room. It defies a little bit the laws of, proper monitoring with the walls, adjacent to the edge of the speakers, but somehow I hear well in here.
When I first arrived, you were mixing. Are you allowed to say who you're working on?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Zach Starkey.
Sounded pretty darn good, and it was a reggae-infused track.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that isn't Sly and Robbie thinking you were going to shoot me down, and you were like...
Sly and Robbie.
Sly and Robbie.
Yeah. Got all the Jamaican cats on this record, and yeah, it's fantastic.
It doesn't get more authentic than Sly and Robbie when
it's
it comes
the real
reggae.
Deal. No, it is the real deal, yeah.
Just as a completely off, totally unrelated question. What is going on with that snare? Because it's so much aggression in it.
You know, I didn't record this project, but I'm thinking it's one of those little tiny, like, pocket snares, I think they call them. Yeah, like a little tiny
It's like a little miniature gunshot.
Yeah, yeah.
But it did. Sometimes those high snares, like, take me out of the moment. This one just sat in the groove.
We've got maybe a little bit of equalization on it. we did tame it down.
Did you put a little saturation on it? Because it had like a kind of to it.
Probably.
Nice. I'm not trying to steal all your
no,
tricks.
No, I can tell
In fact,
you.
I am.
Honestly, I have no secrets because I could tell you how I do everything, and you can do it, and it's not going to sound the same.
It's not going to sound the same.
Well, because you're working on different music, and you'll do it in your own way. But yeah, I'm running a Fatso compressor over there in parallel, and just smoking the crap out of it, and got a few things going there. So a little parallel saturation going on.
And I love that you, and I can tell this from listening to most of the records you've made, you are very respectful of the recordings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when I came over on the console, you're barely using any compression or EQ except over here. You're not using anything of the dynamics on the console.
I personally don't like the sound of the dynamics and equalization in this board.
Right.
And a lot of boards.
Yeah.
So I will use outboard stuff.
Right.
And I use plugins, So
God bless.
Yeah. And so, respectful, but sometimes you got to get in there and get a little creative, or great part is not fitting in with the vibe of the thing. This really needs some of that. And, when I'm mixing, I'll take more liberties than when I'm recording.
Sure.
Recording, I'm more a purist, just capture what's going on, because often it's a great room full of great musicians and sounds, and why not just grab that and then see what you need to do later?
Do you feel because we were talking to the artist you had here earlier, Chris, and we were all, while you were setting up, we were complimenting you because you seem like a continuation of some of the classic recordings. Obviously your work on your own and also with T-Bone. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound retro because that's almost like too many hip kids are sounding retro.
Well, you have to kind of try to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're just taking the same philosophy and same spirit of those recordings.
I'm thinking I'm making a modern recording and it comes out like that.
Well, what I mean is, like, what was great about guys in the 50s and the 60s is they were doing the best they could to capture incredible performances.
Yeah, and I have to say that's some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds great. It's awesome. It highlights the players and the instruments and things, and gets out of the way, but it's big, bold, open, pure sound.
So I have a question, because I know a little bit of your heritage.
Okay.
For me, looking at records as a kid, the name that kept coming up
Don't
in
tell
America...
me you saw my name on a record when you were a kid, because I'm out of here.
That would be good, wouldn't it? No, okay. But you know what I'm going to say. The name that kept coming up was Bruce Botnick.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Sunset Sound did a lot. He did a lot of stuff where I grew up. Yeah, absolutely.
I think of like the drum sound on Peace Roll. Yeah, it's like the most in phase, amazing drum sound I've ever heard.
Yeah,
it sounds like it could have been recorded yesterday.
Yeah, right.
So was that when you went to Sunset? Was it a choice, or was it the only studio you could get a gig at? What was the story?
Honestly, I went to a recording arts institute for a couple years, and I went out with resumes and sent them all over town. And Craig Hubler at Sunset Sound
Great Craig,
called me, and I thought, wow, there's a great opportunity right there. what set me apart between the other 50 people who gave you a resume last week, and it was really, while I was going to school, I had to take a job delivering packages in the morning for, it was actually Purelate or Courier. I don't know if you've heard of them. They were a courier service similar to FedEx, UPS, DHL, but they did a lot of really like important shipments, gold, jewelry, lottery tickets, things like that. And I honestly stood apart because he thought I would be a trustworthy person because of the stupid part-time job I had going to school. So pure luck.
Well, and the fact that you were working alongside of going to school.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I threw down because I left a sort of career job I decided I need to have in the laboratory medical field to go back to school. Decided this isn't for me. I need to go back to school, figure out what to do. I was a drummer my whole life and thought, I'm a musician. I'm going to get into this Recording Arts Institute. Maybe I'll get into a studio and then I'll meet people and they'll hire me to play the drums. You know, like, well, this was a great plan. So you could see that didn't work out so well. But, you know, coming up through the ranks, like I lived in Orange County. I would get up, start my job at 7 a.m. till noon, drive from there to LA every day, go to school from, I don't know, like 6, 7 o'clock till 10, 11 at night. And even after that, I would actually go with some of my teachers who were in town doing gigs, mixing, like, hey, you want to come to the mix session? See what? Yeah. And I would go there till 2 a.m. and then drive back to Orange County. I did that for 2 years.
That's amazing.
So working, going to school, trying to like be everywhere I could. If these guys were giving me opportunities to go and hang out with them, and Malcolm Cecil was in the middle of a Savoy Brown record over at Westlake doing stuff. And I was like hanging out, watching him mix. And, you know, we went to a studio to shake it down, and he like put his stuff up through the console and like, I don't like the VCAs and these faders. It doesn't sound right. And I'm just learning and taking all this stuff in, like, wow, like no one taught me about that at school.
Right.
So these are the things you don't learn at school, you know.
Amazing opportunity.
You hang out with these guys that know what they're doing if you can, you know, and that really is a good education. Yeah.
This is the closest thing we can do now, is to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
right.
Try to give back as much as we can.
I was fortunate, you know, at Sunset growing up, I had great producers coming in. You're a fly on the wall in those sessions. Engineers that came before me through the cycle. You know, Chad Blake is one, Biff Dawes, David Leonard, a lot of really great engineers. And you learn from those. Those are the guys teaching you what to do.
What year was that? What sort of period is that?
1900, I think, somewhere around that area. Yeah.
I'm just thinking
late 80s.
80s.
Yeah.
So what?
I know you've interviewed Neil Avron.
Sure.
Who was we sort of had a parallel career at Sunset. So
sure.
I think it was like 88 or something like that.
Right.
When I started there as a runner when Craig hired me. You know, making fruit bowls and getting goodies at the store for Prince and whoever was in that week. And the first time I remember ever being allowed in the room, engineer had finished a tracking session, opened up the back door. He's like, all right, come on in. And I looked at a freaking mess. There were cables and mics. It just looked like a bomb went off. He's like, go at it. Remember I taught you how to roll up the cable? And I was like, fuck. Oh my, it took me, you know, hours probably just to go in there and wrap it. I'm like, wow, this is like tough, man. That was the first thing I was allowed to do. Go in and roll up cables.
And then you probably have guys coming back over and over again, and they get used to you and they expect it to just be ready to go.
Yeah. But then, see, I turned into that guy, and I don't know where this came from because I don't think I was always like this, but I was very much a go-getter there as a runner. There would be times where, you know, you've got the fruit bowls, you've gotten everyone lunch, everything's humming along. I sit in the office with the lady and watch TV and hang out. No, I was like finding stuff to do. I went in and organized their whole tape library and made a management system with barcodes and a folder to cross-reference. And when you check things in and out, I went in and rebuilt the mic locker, stripped all the stuff out of the cubby holes and put new foam in. And I just always had a project going on in the background. And when there was downtime, I'd go work on my little project. And then when I was busy, you know. So I just,
amazing.
I was hungry, you know.
I completely relate.
Definitely very hungry, yeah.
So do you have any like younger brothers?
No, I don't. I wish I did, honestly. Yeah, for both of us, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So was it the sort of classic transition where you start working a lot with one producer or engineer and then you get pulled aside?
After a while, at first, my experience there was we would first start working with some of our own guys that were the seconds, that would someone would come in, they need a first engineer, and then it's like, grab Mikey, bring him in on the session. So there's a guy named Dave Knight, David Glover, Steve Shelton. I know I'm forgetting people. Well, even Neil. So yeah, you would start working with your own guys because they could back you up. It wasn't some outside client where if something goes wrong and you fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
Those guys knew what to do and they could do my job in their sleep. So I'd start out working with them a little bit on projects they would first engineer. But then, you know, pretty much soon after that, I became an assistant after 2.5 years of being a runner. So I had
That's actually quite quick for Sunset.
Yeah, it was quick, but it seemed like a long time. I mean, you know, I was ready to move up, certainly.
15, 18 hour days. Yeah.
And I was ready in my brain, but I don't know if I had the experience, but at some point you need to get thrown into the frying pan. And so it happened. And my very first session as an assistant was a Kellogg's Corn Flakes commercial.
Nice.
So that was my glorious introduction to that. But I soon became, after a little experience, the guy who worked with all the clients that no one else wanted to work with, or the clients didn't want to work with any of them. Right. And I was the guy who could somehow come in and shift my persona to sort of make them comfortable and happy and get them what they needed. And I seemed to keep things going. So I tended to get all the problem clients. And eventually, and not because of any problems, but because he was a regular client, I, gravitated to a couple sessions with T-Bone, who really liked me. I must have had a good vibe for him. And my earliest recollection was sitting in a room. I don't think it was Counting Crows. It might have been the Wallflowers album. And I was sitting in the back of the room, just being a fly on the wall, being silent. And something was going on, and T-Bone was asking the engineer and the artist, and like, what do you think, should this way or that? And then he turned around and asked me the same question. And I thought, wow, really? Like, you want my opinion? And I was like, this guy is like different. Like, this guy's like something about him, So I enjoyed being in the room. I thought, wow, this guy is special. And I recognized that young, And so sooner or later, as he would come in to do sessions, he would request me to be like, oh, hey, if we can get Mike in the room on our session, that'd be great. And so they'd put me with him. And eventually that led to first engineering with T-Bone a lot, to the point where we'd come in to do an album and I would say, oh, Craig, who's my second? Well, you're the second. We don't have anyone to give you. So I would end up taking on the session by myself.
Wow. Be
the first engineer and second engineer. And then you learn quickly how to
You're in there 2-3 hours before everybody might get all the mics set up.
Yeah. And it's only, okay, oh man, you need this in your headphones, and oh man, the gear, and I'm recording, and but so-and-so needs lunch. Hold on, and now I'm the second, and or patch this, there's no one to, I got to do everything. So you learn quick,
right.
On a session like that, you're doing everything. So that grew into being the first and second engineer. And there came a point where T-Bone was keeping me busy enough, even at Sunset. And Craig just said, fly, little birdie, it's time for you to leave. And I basically got fired. From Sunset Sound. Thank you, Craig, who I love, by the way.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Yeah. He's amazing guy.
One of my favorite people and one of my favorite studios.
Yeah. He cut me my first break. He, I'd say he took a chance on me, to some degree, and he believed in me and put me in a good position.
He's a good person. He knows how to read people.
He was always great to me. He treated me very well, and I have a lot of respect and love for him. Yeah.
And that was a golden age for a second coming as well, because they had the 60s.
Yeah. You had the Doors era, and then you had the era with the Van Halen and the Prince and all that other. Yeah, and then Tom Petty and
and then that other when Bringing Down the Horse you were talking about when that came out, that kind of rejuvenated
that,
and
again. The other record, well, and at Sound Factory too, which is the sister studio, the Counting Crows record and La Bamba, So T-Bone came in there and just like started throwing strikes,
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, amazing, yeah. And he just sort of grabbed me out of that corral and took me out of there. So,
Well, I mean, on a business level, it's really smart because now he's just created another client.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about Craig.
Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, that's always their goal is for you to gravitate, get tossed out of the nest and to bring clients back. Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, that's how the ball works. Yeah. But he did warn me and rightly so, when I left there because I was so, I don't even know the word to use. All my eggs were in one basket with T-Bone. Sure. I didn't have any other clients, and I was exclusively working with him. And Craig even warned me, which was a very smart warning, and something I thought, well, what do I do? And so every year I was with T-Bone, I would weigh my sort of existence. What did I do this year? Who did I work with? How much money did I make? And it was just going like this every year. And I thought, okay, if T-Bone decides to retire and go to the south of France, I'm fucked. Right. But if he doesn't, why wouldn't I just keep holding on to this coattail and taking this ride? And so that's what I did. I just decided, this is what my gut's telling me to do.
But now you're out on your own, obviously still working with T-Bone when he's working, but you're doing a Zach Starkey record. That sounds pretty phenomenal.
It's fun,
With a heck of an all-star cast when you got Sly and Robbie playing.
My God, really fun record,
Who else is on it?
Oh, God, boy. There's a guy named Horsemouth, Toots Hibbard, Zach's on it. Yeah. There's a really cool punky girl named Shush on this record. Who I've just been introduced to on this album. Just a ton of guys.
Who was the producer?
Well, Zach is.
Oh, he produced it himself?
Yeah, Zach's producing, and he's playing guitar. Yeah, and Sly's doing most of the drums. Yeah. Amazing. So it's just this core of the Jamaican guys and Zach, and then there's a couple of guests here and there. They did it in Jamaica. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They did it in Jamaica. Yeah, so they were just right there in the middle of it. And then Zach flew to Australia, and the producer flew back to England, and we're commiserating through 3 time zones right now to get notes and files and keep up on everything. So
this sounds like the glory days of late 70s, early 80s, where it was like the Stones would go to Jamaica or the Bahamas and make a record.
Which to me, I'm so happy to be invited in on this project, and it's like, wow, I mean, they put a lot of trust in me, so. My goal is to send them things that make them go, woo, that's what I want to see.
How many songs in are you?
Well, actually, I'm actually on the last song today.
Oh, wonderful.
We're mixing the last song, but I'm going to circle back around to the first 2 or 3 songs that I mixed, which I love to do because I think when you're mixing an album, you set things up, you plug stuff in, you get a vibe. And, by the 3rd or 4th song, you've really hit something and you've got the essence of the thing. And I think you learn something through those first songs that you can go back and apply to them. And look, if you don't beat it, you got the first mix and, there's no sense in not trying it.
Well, I don't really want to talk gear, but I am going to. I'm going to ask you a couple of dumb questions.
Yeah, okay.
Just because I want to ask a dumb question. Desert Island. What is the one thing that is it? You know what? It's more of a global thing. Is it more like? Do you think a mic is more important to you than anything else, or do you think it's
wow
more of a global thing? Because of course, the reason why I ask it is because you're in a unique position. You're somebody I highly respect because you know all the elements. you know how to record it, how to mix it from beginning to end.
I've had the fortune of doing a lot of albums top to bottom, which a lot of people don't get to do.
Yeah, these days it's like you record a record.
And it gets
blah,
passed
blah, blah,
on.
mixes it. And
maybe you don't even do the overdubs. Yeah. So I have had the luxury of doing a lot of the things I do.
That sort of global
top to bottom. You know, I might have to be really honest here, and
please,
I might make enemies even.
Oh no!
But let's just do this right here. Honestly, in this day and age, right now, the most important thing is a workstation, a digital workstation, because there's so many things you can do in so many ways in so many places that if I have a mic, that's great, but what am I going to record it on? If I have my favorite compressor and I don't have a way to mix the track that it's on, I don't know. I mean, it really is nowadays the most important thing. And I really hate to admit it, but it's true.
Well, we were talking earlier about mixing. I think it was off camera. You were talking about obviously using external pieces with some beautiful Pultecs, but you were saying, and I use a lot of plugins.
I love it. Again, something T-Bone and I have developed through the years of just using all the best technology at the same time. We're not snobs. We love good audio. We love hi-fi. So we do that. But if there's a great thing that's $39 reverb that's just cool and sounds great, we'll use that.
Sure.
So yeah, I tend to use a lot of plugins along with the gear. And I think I've done something on this record that maybe I've always done subconsciously is I'll get everything kind of flowing and working and going through the gear, getting the sound, much like Gavin would master a record and get his gain staging and stuff like that. And then I tend to do a lot of things in the box where then like maybe some of the detail stuff or, boy, I just need one little something on this and I'll look for my favorite plugin or something and pop that on there and do that kind of thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the gear tends to be sort of become part of the sound, and the designing maybe goes on a little more in the box nowadays.
Yeah, the fact that we can, we used to have to sit there like balancing gates and stuff like that, and now
and there's stuff I can't do out here that I can do in there,
and
for sure,
1,000 times quicker.
Yeah, and with maybe 20 more choices of ways to do it. Yeah. So it's fantastic. Yeah.
Somebody once asked me a question. Was like, what's it feel like now that you've got like $1 million worth of gear every time you open up your DAW?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because we used to go to studios and they'd have 5 multi-effects. And we'd be like, wow, they've got a Rev 7 and 2 SPX 90s. Right. Now you've got
I know
100 instances of reverb. It's crazy.
And it could get back to the, like when you record in there, could be a detrimental aspect of it as well, where you're given too many choices of things. Because, people used to have to fit on their tape machine what they were going to record for their album.
But that's why we're talking to you.
Because they'd have to make a choice, though.
Well, the thing is, you have the acquired knowledge. You're in a very blessed situation where you've used this gear over the years. Where I imagine it's quite a daunting task for people watching that have never recorded with some of this equipment.
Sure, yeah. Or, hey, here's a horn section. What do I do? Where do they go? How many mics do I use? What kind of, I don't know about you. I've recorded horns and strings hundreds of times. Yeah. I still get terrified every time they come in. Right. There's so many people and it's such an expensive session.
I know.
Yeah.
And they're all amazing musicians.
Of course. Yeah.
You go like, oh, there's a guy here who's played on like 50 of the greatest records of all time. And I'm like putting a mic up like this.
Yeah, it's daunting.
It doesn't change.
Yeah. Honestly, I get nerves, especially like first day before a tracking session. And like you're not sleeping good that night, and it's, I guess, akin to like stage fright or something. Yeah. But it's good, like nervous butterflies. It's like you're concerned, you care. It means a lot. Yeah. And I think if I ever lost that, I think it wouldn't be good. Reminds me of I don't know if it's not an American thing, but Formula One. Jackie Stewart, the great. Do you like Formula One? I love Formula One. Jackie Stewart, the great Scottish driver. Yeah. He won the world championship for the 3rd time. There's a lot of people watching this who will correct me, but he retired. There was 2 more races, I think, of the season, and he stopped racing. Oh, do you remember that? The last time he won it? Yeah. It's like 73, I think. Yeah. And they asked him, why did you stop? I mean, we know you've won the world championship. And he goes, last time I got into the car, I didn't feel scared anymore. Right. Wow. That's interesting.
And
I thought you were going to say quite the opposite, that it was the era of, not such great medical practices around the sport and things, but that's interesting.
No, I mean, he was always in fear. And then one moment he's like, whoa, the fear's gone.
That's weird.
I think he was concerned he was going to die.
Wow.
He was on the edge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I love that idea of always be learning.
Well, honestly, the day that I don't want to learn something, or I feel like, Warren, please, I mean, come on. How many records, No, it's like this.
Right.
Sorry. The day I feel like that, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the lowliest second engineer who's his first day on the job, I want to be T-Bone. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I learned that from him. It's like, that guy might have something to say that I may want to hear. I may learn something. And I'll learn something from everybody. These kids in the studio, they'll teach me tricks and Pro Tools every day. It's like, I never knew you could do that. That's fucking awesome. And they can watch me. And so I never want to stop learning.
There is a lesson here, kids, though. Wait to be asked.
Yeah. Well, that and just never stop learning. You never are going to have it down to where every session is like, oh yeah, I got don't ever feel like that.
I still have no idea what I'm doing most of the time anyway.
I feel like that every day. I feel like that every day.
It's a wonderful way to end. Thank you very much.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Please,
you so
as
much.
ever, leave a bunch of comments and questions below. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.